What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes, and this is Misfit. Today, for our first video of the day, we're going to be doing a preview of the APAC region for Week 3 in the Overwatch League, Week 1 in APAC, because they had the 2-week break. They got a lot of matches. Each team's, I think, playing 3 matches. Yeah, so we got a lot going on, so I wanted to do a separate episode for this, talking about a couple of the key matches that I think are going on, what we want to look at, maybe what to expect. We have heard a lot of rumors and this and that about what they're playing out there, but now it finally comes down to business, and we're going to see what we got going on. There's a lot to unpack with the schedule being as big as it is. Next week's even as big as well. This video is going to be up first, and then either later in the evening on, which will be Thursday, or early Friday morning, I'm going to have the NA preview up. Things happen. Got a little behind, but you know, it is what it is. But first, before we dive into this preview for APAC, I want to thank everybody for joining me. If you've been here for 1 day or for 5 years, thank you very much for all of your support. It's greatly appreciated. Love having you coming in, talking Overwatch League. If you're new, thanks a lot for stopping by. Same thing. Thanks a lot. Greatly appreciate you guys coming in. Just so you know, I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what we have going on. If any big news breaks or anything like that, we'll do a little bit more. But generally, I'm going to be doing an APAC preview, a NA preview, and then we're going to do just a all-encompassing recap of the weekend, and that will be generally either Monday night, Tuesday morning, and then the previews will be, depending, you know, we have, next week we have APAC playing on Thursday, so I'll have that up for you on Wednesday. And then the other preview will be up Thursday, and then to get you guys ready for the week. Okay, so let's dive into this. We have not seen any teams in the APAC region play yet, so I'm really excited because there's a lot of good teams over there, or at least a couple that we definitely want to spend some time on, and diving into their matches this week, seeing what they come out of the gates looking like, and all that kind of stuff. Now they've had a couple of weeks to watch NA. Not that they're necessarily going to pay attention, but they can see what works and what doesn't work for some of the stuff from all the hearsay, and they're seeing their comps work well, which we've talked a little bit about last week, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago where I saw Fleta and a couple other guys saying that Zarya and some of that Zarya with Soldier Tracer, Zarya Reaper, some of that stuff is working really well, and we saw some of it work really well. Some of it fail. It depends on who's playing it. Let's be honest. Shanghai can pretty much run anything they want. They could say that they're running Roadhog Echo. I'm gonna buy into them making it viable, at least for a couple of maps. We have a general idea of who's going to be good in this region. Obviously, Shanghai. You're looking at Seoul. Chengdu would have been up there. I think if they got a Prita in there, it would have just made a more solid DPS line, a more versatile DPS line than if we were just where we're at now with Jinmu. So I would have had them up there, but I would put Philly up there. Hangzhou has a shot at being decent. There's a lot of different things that can happen. There are a couple teams that are bad, but they're not that bad, but just there's not as many teams, so they're going to seem worse than they actually are, in my opinion, being Guangzhou and the Valiant. And Chengdu is firmly right back into the Chengdu zone. Don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't think they're going to be terrible. My expectations are not as high as they are now as they were when they said they had a Prita, and far away they had that rotation. Yeah, they needed to get rid of a couple of the supports. You don't need 4. I think the loss of a Prita by attrition or money or whatever happened there is gonna hurt. It really is. Shanghai, we all know what Shanghai is. Best team. I think that they're going to do a lot of the same things. Their team has not changed. A lot of people want them to fail. They're going to come up with excuses and say that their DPS line isn't as good as we think they are. Their tank players aren't as good as we think they are. But if any indication of what's going on in NA, if they're running Zarya, that means they're running Void. And Void, he fucks on Zarya. I'm sorry. If you got him in there on Zarya, all you guys, all you Fate naysayers, you're going to be put to rest because he's not going to be in. I'm sure they'll get into some Winston comps and stuff like that, and he's perfectly fine on Winston. I think he's better than people give him credit for. And what are you going to do with Li Jae The dude is going to run around on Lucio and murder people. If Lastro's doing it, what the frick is this guy going to do? I'm sorry. I'm not buying into them not being at the top. I mean, who knows? It could all fall apart and Seoul or the Valiant could do something. Who knows what? But I cannot take anything away from Shanghai. I'm looking at them to be phenomenal. I'm also looking at Philly. A lot of people are saying Philly's going to be either like the Shock with their rookies or they're going to be like New York. I'm going to go with somewhere in between. I think there are going to be moments where they come out and they just are fantastic. And I think there are going to be some times where they come out and they're not as ready. And that could very well happen in these first couple of weeks, too. You have 3 matches. Who are you preparing for if you're Philly? I'm sorry, actually, Philly has 2. But still, who are you preparing for if you're Philly? Shanghai? Or are you preparing for the Guangzhou Charge more? I'm looking at Shanghai and taking that one. You know, a team like Seoul, they have Chengdu, Hangzhou, and the Valiant. It's up in the air. There's 3 different style teams, most likely. You don't know what you're going to get. You know, so it's not as easy on paper as it seems. Shanghai, I think, they can muddle their way through a couple of matches. They only have 2 this week. The teams that have 3 matches this week are going to be Guangzhou, Hangzhou, the Valiant, and the Seoul Dynasty. Fusion and the Dragons and Chengdu all have 2. Next week's going to be hard for a couple of teams because you have Shanghai and Philly playing 4 matches because Shanghai next week will have the Dragons. Shanghai next week will have the Charge, the Valiant, the Hunters, and the Dynasty to finish their stage off, which that's nuts. Fusion have start with the Dynasty, then play Chengdu, the Valiant, and the Spark to finish out. So you could see, just because how hard their schedule is for those 2 teams, which I got highly rated. You didn't expect a COVID outbreak and a 2-week delay, but you could see a team like Hangzhou sneak in. Just because one of these teams, they're going to be tired. They're playing a game every day. This is like season 1 shenanigans. Look at a couple of the teams that have 3. I mean, yeah, 2 of them are bad, quote unquote, in that, and then they play each other on top of it. It's going to work out kind of weird. I think also the Dragons and the Fusion with 4 games, you might see some substitutions you wouldn't have normally seen on that second weekend just because of the extra game or 2 games to catch up and all that. You know, you might see a little Bebe and Who Are You in one of the matches when they play the Valiant or something like that because they have 2 games that are kind of super important in the Fusion and the Dynasty. You could see them against the Charge and the Valiant kind of running a little B-team stuff. Same thing with Fusion. You might see some Fury, some Belisara. They might switch things up. They only have 2 supports, so you're not going to see any rotation out of that, obviously. And you're going to see Zest, MN3, and Carpe, I believe, rotating anyway. So, I mean, Shanghai, who generally has a set 6 or 5 at this point, you might see Fate. You might see a scenario where you try some stuff with Fate and you have Who Are You in there and maybe Bebe in there. Let's talk the actual schedule for this week. We'll run this down, and then I got 2 matches I'm looking at for APAC for this week. Then I'll run over my picks, and then we'll call it a day for the APAC preview. All these are Eastern Standard Time, starting with the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Philly Fusion. Next up on Friday morning, we have Guangzhou taking on LA Valiant. And then the final game in APAC on Friday, we have Hangzhou taking on the Seoul Dynasty. Saturday, we have the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Guangzhou Charge to start off 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by the Dragons taking on the Hangzhou Spark, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, roughly. And then the last game for Saturday, we have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the LA Valiant. Last day of APAC, we have 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Fusion taking on the Guangzhou Charge, followed by Chengdu taking on Seoul, and then finishing up with the LA Valiant taking on Hangzhou Spark. So let's dive into a couple of matches here. Kind of roughly went over some teams and some things. We really didn't see anything yet. Obviously, right off the rip, we got a big game. We got Shanghai taking on Philadelphia. Like I was saying, they got a couple of weekends. Next weekend's rougher. I mean, all these teams got a pretty rough weekend. I would have rather have had it split 3-3. I wonder if they asked if you're okay with 2 and then 4, and they might have found a couple. Them and Philly might have said, yeah, okay. Who knows how it worked out? We know Shanghai coming in. We just talked about them and how nuts I think they're going to be, especially if they dive into that Zarya comp. Them going up against Philly, I think this is good test to see what we're going to get from Philly. I think they can kind of keep it close with them because their DPS, especially their 2 rookies, MN3 and Zest, are going to be really, really good. I can't wait to see these guys play, and they're going to be playing. They're not going to get like a crap team to start. They're starting off against one of the, if not in some people's mind, best DPS lines in Lip and Fleta. And you throw Carpe in there, obviously. Their DPS line is going to be good. They got Fury, Belisara. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I'm terrible. I'm assuming we're going to see Fury from the reports. And if you look at NA, not many teams are running their main tank. They're running their off tank because they're playing the Zaryas and things like that. And some of them, like, you look at Hanbin, guys like that, picks up the Winston pretty good. Off-tank guys are the way to go. And, you got guys like Kaluj doing the same thing. But let's really get down to it. I think it's, on paper, it looks really good. But if you really tear it up here and dive in deep, what do you got? Let's go to our tail of the tape for this match. All right, DPS, Lip, Fleta, and then you have Zest, MN3, Carpe. I give, just because I've seen them play together, I'm going to have to give it to the Dragons. Lip and Fleta. I think Carpe, MN3, and Zest are going to be fantastic. I just don't know what to expect from them yet, so I'm going to lean on what I know. I'm going to lean on the Shanghai Dragons in that. Supports, hands down, you can't go with any other pick but to pick Shanghai in this. You have Li Zhegan and Izayaki. You're set. Fixa and Aim God. I'm really worried about this. A lot of people are liking the Aim God, but I don't know. Fixa, I think, from all I've heard, I think Fixa will be pretty good. I'm worried about Aim God on the Ana. He's good, and even some of the guys in NA are playing really well, but you don't know what they're going to run support-wise. I'm assuming they're going to run Lucio. You could see some other things, and that's where I get into the I don't know about Aim God. Because if Shanghai gets into it, and you get into things like Brig, and you get into other things that we've seen them do before. Obviously, Aim God played in Season 1 with Boston, and I think he played with Toronto after that. He played some Zen and things like that, but I don't think they're going to be running too much Baptiste because they're still playing on the first patch, or before the first patch of the beta. So you got to go with Izayaki and Li Zhegan. I mean, Li Zhegan's he's going to be giving people nightmares. They're going to be waking up hearing Lucio voice lines in their head as they fall off the cliff or just get absolutely murdered. He's going to tear it up. I actually can't wait. Tank line in this one, I think it's kind of close, but kind of not. I got to go Void again. I know. Fury is really good. He's a legend. Last year, he was in the shit show that it was the Washington Spark, Hangzhou Justice, whatever you want to call them, 2 teams. Anyway, I don't think it was any reflection on how he plays. Let's just leave it at that. I think he's going to be fine. I think they're going to have moments in this match where, in the tail of the tape that I just did, I'm leaning all on Shanghai. Why wouldn't you? But I'm going to throw this out. I think that the collective of the Fusion, maybe not right out of the gate, are going to be fantastic. But I think as they work together, as they play more together, I think they're going to get better and better. And I think they're going to be decent this year. But I don't think this is the week. I think they could take a map, maybe take a second map from them. I'm going with, in this first match, I'm going Shanghai 3-1 over the Philadelphia Fusion. Close 3-1 at points. I think there's going to be maps, maybe they sneak push away from the Dragons. We've seen weirder things. I mean, the Shock lost a map to NYXL, and NYXL is not even half the team that the Fusion are. Shanghai Dragons 3-1. Let's move on to the next match. All right. Now, there's a couple of matches, and they all involve Seoul. I mean, I could have just went for troll pick for a third map or a third match and said, let's talk Charge Valiant. But I'm not going to do that. I just can't. Sometimes I can. Not looking at all these matches and going, well, yeah. Well, what do we got? We got Seoul playing Hangzhou. That could be close. You got Seoul playing Chengdu. I'm like, there we are. Seoul and Chengdu. Let's do that one. Because there's a lot of things going on with Chengdu. Obviously, by this point, we'll have seen them play a match. Oh, and I think I forgot to mention, they're also one of the teams playing 4 matches next weekend. They have Spark, Dragons, Valiant, Charge. I'm sorry, not Charge, Fusion. Little rough. I mean, they're all playing each other, so, I mean, what are you going to do? Smaller division. So let's talk about Seoul Dynasty and the Chengdu Hunters. Now, if you saw the power rankings, I kind of had to rework a little bit because of the situation with Chengdu. We all know what happened. No more Aprita, no more Faraway 1987, no more Yevatol. So where are the Hunters right now? They're in their Chengdu zone because, to be frank, I love Jinmu. I love what he can do, but unless he's worked on several heroes over the last few months, he's a niche pick guy. He's got that. He's okay on Sombra, but he's phenomenal on Pharah. But in this iteration of Overwatch, are you going to run Pharah? And the way DPS is going without shields, without all the other stuff, you're seeing a lot more hit scan your soldiers, your hard counters to Pharah. But this is APAC, and we don't know what can happen. So you could see them just go tried and true, and Gaga comes out on Ball, Jinmu comes out on fucking Pharah, and Leave just gets handed the keys to the Ferrari. And I really like Seoul's chances this year. Is this the year? I don't know. But I do think that you're going to be hard pressed to find a team that's kind of stacked like this, that some people are picking third or fourth, kind of stacked. There are spots where I'm like, I don't know. They're one of the teams with the one tank philosophy. So, and it's Smurf, which, you can say what you want, but I'll take Smurf. Smurf is versatile. He can do a lot of things. Your DPS line, we know what they can do. I just want to see them come out. They have the new coaching staff, come out with a plan. They have less players. There isn't going to be the merry-go-round shuffling of 15 tanks and 13 different supports and guys running maps. We all know that doesn't work anymore. I mean, it might work a little bit at first just to get wins because nobody really has any synergy or as much map knowledge as they did by points in even 2019, 2020. You've been playing the same maps minus a couple of the new ones that come in and playing it. All the way to run them. And you have 6 guys that can do that. You might see a little bit of that, but what I'm getting at is they're streamlined. They have very, very good players. You got a couple of new guys in here. You got Vindime and Stalker and Smurf, who's new to the team. You still got Profits, and you have Creative, who I give a lot of crap to, but he ended up playing pretty good last year. So I'm not going to take too much away from him. It is honest, decent enough. Okay, so let's go down the tail of the tape on this one. DPS. Prophet, Fitz, Stalker, and then for Chengdu, you just have Leave and Jinmu. Leave evens out some of the stuff. There's going to be moments where Leave goes off. I'm very confident in that. A lot of guys, though, they have the year after they've had a phenomenal year like that, they calm down or whatever, but I don't know about this guy. This guy could be built different in my mind. I think he's going to be fine. On the whole, when you add Jinmu in there in his hero pool, compared to Fitz and Prophet in their hero pools, I got to give the edge to Seoul in this because it's the Jinmu factor. If you had Leave and you had Aprita, you could almost go with that over Prophet and Fitz. It would be closer by a mile than Jinmu leave. So I got Seoul on the DPS. Supports. This you could argue back and forth, but I think it's fairly close. And I would even though they lost Yevatool and Faraway, I think Monk played really well at points last year. And I also think Nisha can do a decent enough job on Lucio. Because if you remember, he was a better Lucio than Yevatool was anyway. And Lucio's key, so one of the reasons why they probably dropped him is because he's probably got a better Lucio. My opinion. So I lean on very, very hair-thin, razor's edge line. I'm going to go with Chengdu in the support role. Venn Diem, I think it's going to be really good. And I think Creative is good at points. But I just think these guys they're kind of equal. You could call it a wash, or maybe, in my opinion, I give a slight edge to Monk and Nisha. A lot of that synergy with the team, but yeah, that's where I see that. So I'll give Chengdu a tick on that. Tank line. Chengdu has Gaga and Daisy, or Daisy. I'm going with Daisy. Obviously, this is a hard one to figure out with them because what do you do? You have Gaga, who's, Ball, Winston, can play Reinhardt. He's pretty versatile. So he's probably picked up something. Has he picked up the Zarya? Are they going to run Ball? Are they going to run Doom? We're probably going to see some Doom in some form. But if they're running that Zarya comp, that seems to be a pretty good counter to it. And with some of these nasty supports over here with the way they play Ana, you might be in some big trouble. But does Gaga have enough? Or are they going to run Daisy? He is an off tank, and I believe he might even be a Zarya guy, like a Zarya specialist kind of dude, from what I remember reading on him. And Sigma as well. I think he was a Sigma. Like Zarya Sigma, his two biggest heroes. So, I mean, those are two heroes that you can really rely on in this iteration of Overwatch 2. I think that's not bad. You might see him in for certain maps. Seems like certain maps are definitely becoming like Zarya maps and things like that. I don't mind that map-specific stuff. I kind of like it, actually. I'm going to lean on Smurf. I just think he's more versatile. Is he only one guy? Yes. We've seen that in NA, though. Mostly the off-tanks doing it, but I think that you could say, just on paper, Smurf better than Gaga. Gaga is better on Ball, but Ball is irrelevant as far as the NA goes. Kind of replaced by the Winston and the Doom, just for obvious reasons, I guess. So what do I think? I think this is going to be closer than the Seoul Dynasty are going to want. I would think it would be even closer. Might lean on Chengdu a little harder if they had a Prita in the mix. Faraway 1987 and Yevatool are collateral damage, in my opinion. It's the Aprita in the backline that really, the loss of that really just is not going to work for me with them. I'm going to take, in this match, I'm going to take Seoul 3-2, mostly on the Prophet and Fitz front. Smurf a little bit better than Gaga. I think the supports are fairly even to a little bit lean on Chengdu. So that's what I think about this match. Okay, so we got our matches covered. I'll give you guys my pick'ems. I'll throw them up at the end. I am currently, after last weekend's fun on with the Justice and Boston and the Gladiators shitting the bed, I have 5 losses total. So I get Houston right, and then everything else just falls to crap. So right now I'm 17-5 total, and that's for obviously only NA. All right, let's do this. Let's run them down. Starting with the first match, we already talked about this. Shanghai 3-1 over the Fusion, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on that one. Also, encore match. The other encore match, I believe, is Fusion Guangzhou on Sunday. Oh, and Saturday, Chengdu Guangzhou. I think they're going to run mostly Philly on those whenever Philly plays, just because it's necessary, because they're from Philly. It makes sense. Anyway, back to the picks. Next match, 7:30, roughly, a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guangzhou taking on the LA Valiant. I like the LA Valiant 3-2. Final match of Friday, Seoul taking on Hangzhou. I like the Seoul Dynasty 3-1. Moving on to Saturday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Chengdu taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I like Chengdu 3-1. Next match, Shanghai taking on the Hangzhou Spark. Shanghai 3-1 over Hangzhou. The Spark. Final match of Saturday, Seoul Dynasty taking on the LA Valiant. I like the Dynasty 3-0. Sunday, first match, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I have Philly 3-0. Next match, we just talked about this, Seoul taking on Chengdu. I have Seoul 3-2. Final match from APAC on the first weekend for them, week 3 overall. Hangzhou Spark 3-1 over the LA Valiant. Okay, so that's going to do my APAC preview, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me on this one. Finally glad to see some action from the East, see what they're running. They always do something different. I can't wait to see what goes on with this. But thanks a lot for joining me on this preview episode. I'd just like to shout out and thank everybody for supporting me. If you've been here for 1 day or for 5 years, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. If you're new and you made it all the way to the end, thanks a lot. If you could please hit a like, hit a subscribe, all the YouTube jazz, that'd be fantastic. Helps me get up in the algorithms and all the you know the drill. You guys watch videos, you know the drill. But this is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.